Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Russell Cotes Art Gallery and Museum Management Committee. I'm going to turn to you, Rebecca Rhodes, to inform us about the customary housekeeping.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. We have an apology from Councillor Andy Martin. Rebecca, are there any other apologies?
No other apologies, Chair.
It's customary at our meetings for any declarations of interest to be made at this point. Are there any? In which case we can move to the minutes of the last meeting, which took place on the 2nd of June last. You will note at item 2, the election of a chair. This is unusual in as much as I am very grateful to acknowledge that election, but since it would have exceeded the normal term, Cabinet have approved an extension, bearing in mind the anticipation of a move to an independent charity within the next calendar year. So that matter is now resolved. Are there any matters of accuracy relating to these minutes? In which case, we might just turn to any matters arising from those minutes which are not on the agenda. In which case, I ask you to approve the minutes of that meeting. Approved? Approved. Thank you. Public issues, Rebecca.
There are no public issues, Chair.
Thank you. As a consequence of calls upon the attending officer of the authority, we're going to do a slight change on the running order of our agenda, and I invite you to look at item 8, the museum update on progress to independence, which we'll take first. By way of introduction to this item, you will note that the third paragraph refers to a decision taken not by the council as a whole, as I understand it, but by officers of the council, that the October 1st, 2005 was the presumed deadline for externalisation. And as a consequence of it being exceeded, the budget for the museum and its operations from the 1st of October will be set against the proposed lump sum which would have been paid to the new independent charity and until independence is finally granted. So operational costs would be progressively accrued by the Russell Cotes and deleted from the agreed sum. I report to you that I have written to the chief executive of BCP and drawing his attention to two very important documents. The first of those was a document that recorded the minutes of the cabinet meeting which took place on the 23rd of April last, and following the agreement which had been made between the management committee and the authority. And in paragraph 19 of those minutes, it clearly states that Russell Cotes has been advised by the Charity Commission to expect the process of independence to take between 18 months and 2 years, which suggested a vesting day of the 1st of October 2025 or the 1st of April 2026. Now, we know that vesting day and slow progress of this matter has been very much affected by the last general election, and so parliamentary time, which will be required for the independence arrangements to be ratified, has been problematic. We believe that 1st of April 2026 is within reach, and it is certainly within the understanding of the shadow board that that will be a date to work to. At paragraph 22 of those same minutes, the proposed vesting dates, whilst being targeted by the council, could nevertheless change. So there was a clear understanding that the 1st of October was subject to confirmation and was not certain, and that a fallback date or default date of the 1st of April is properly recorded. This was subsequently endorsed by full council at its meeting later in April, May. With that said, I do pause for comment really about the proposal which is currently being made. Firstly, whether it's, well, I think matters of legality are a matter of debate, but I think we should see that any proposal that is placing the running costs of the museum and gallery against the proposed transfer of sums as a profound act of bad faith. With that said, I will pause now for comment from colleagues here. Alan.
Yes, Chair. I note that we've expressed concern at the Council's position. But as a member of the Shadow Board, can I deplore the fact that this has taken place, the action that the Council's taken? As far as I'm concerned, it does throw into complete doubt the viability of operating the museum in the future as a separate entity.
Are there any other comments? Lisa.
Thank you.
Councillor North, I should say. I apologise.
Yeah, I'm quite concerned about this because the money is obviously needed to be able to do the task in hand. So if we start to remove some of that money, it's not going to be a viable thing to go forward with. So yes, I'm also very concerned.
Fiona?
I agree with the previous comments.
I invite Matty, you may have a view that you could share with us in this matter.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members of the committee. I think when the financial agreement was established, it was done in good faith with the view, with the anticipated and hoped for externalisation of the museum to take place in a certain timely period. And I think it's just unfortunate that the council's financial position, as it's evolved in between then and now, has meant that our inability to make the transfer for the 1st of October, recognising that that it was never guaranteed, and it was always possible that it might not transfer until later, possibly April. Even that is still based on a number of different assumptions. But those, but that's the inability of making that particular date then suddenly presented the council with a fairly significant financial challenge, because it had perhaps optimistically assumed that the transfer would take place on the 1st of October. And whilst I won't get into all the kind of accountancy kind of processes that support the development of our budget, the essential part of it is that the revenue budget of the Bristol Cotes was removed, and a temporary funding was put in its place that expired on the 30th of September, which is why we suddenly have a position where that budget is not there to continue. So it's not like the budget was taken away on the 1st of October. The budget had been taken away before and temporarily plugged. So a complicated kind of accounting arrangement that was supporting the development of the previous annual year's budget, but it's left us with this kind of dilemma that there isn't the money to keep paying unless the council decided to make it a priority and find that money. And right now that would mean finding more savings of some kind to fill that particular gap, along with all the other measures that are currently taking place to think about how we set a budget for next year. So I totally understand the chair's perspective that it's in the minutes that we knew that it wasn't necessarily the case that we would make the 1st of October. It could be later, but as I say, in parallel but not directly connected, a certain kind of more optimistic position had been taken with the development of the budget. So we are where we are. The advice I've received from our Chief Financial Officer is that there is no other money allocated to the museum to bridge this particular gap, and that apart from the one-off funding that had been agreed to support the museum on its independence. So right now that is the only money that we can rely upon to fill this particular gap. But I do appreciate that you've asked to speak to the Chief Executive to express your concerns and ask for that decision to be given a review. But that's probably all I can really say at this point, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
Can I just ask if officers have got a route forward under the circumstances? Because you can't just draw a line and say you're on your own, chaps. You must have some sort of plan.
Chair, the only avenue that is currently planned is to rely upon part of the lump sum as little as possible, because ideally the quicker the transfer takes place, the less is drawn from that lump sum. But recognising, as it's been said a moment ago, that the earliest that transfer is likely to take place is now the 1st of October. So within that period, it's around £300,000 of costs that will be incurred, and that the only avenue that I'm aware of is to use the lump sum, which clearly reduces the amount of time that lump sum will support the museum's activities into its externalisation, and I fully appreciate that the longer that funding were to last, the more time the new trust has to develop new income streams and opportunities to be self-supporting. So obviously it's a significant chunk. And I also probably perhaps to make the other point that's in the report, isn't it, around transfer of assets. There's an outstanding discussion around the pension liabilities as well, which I know are of concern to the trust, and those two things can obviously eat into that lump sum post transfer if the transfer has already been reduced. If the lump sum has already been reduced, and the pension liabilities create a pressure on the new organisation's budget. So it's appreciated that reduction in the lump sum is not something you wish to see.
George, do you wish to speak? No. I think there is a fact that if we assumed that the 1st of October had prevailed, the council is ill prepared to have executed what would be required for that independence to have taken place, because it is not merely the transfer of the agreed sum, it is also the transfer of various parts of an estate, as well as the, a number of other legal requirements. That is not in place. And we believe it will take several months for that to be enacted. So even if it had taken place on the 1st of October, the council is not ready to execute that. Secondly, the matter concerning pensions, which I am grateful to you for raising, we have repeatedly asked the authority about their position, but we've had no formal response. So our ability to act on that matter is circumscribed. So two very, very significant matters are still unresolved, although the authority is now saying that to all intents and purposes, you will have transferred on the 1st of October and all costs that take place thereafter are being set against the financial agreement. This is not dealing properly with a trust that is currently within the responsibility of the authority.
I certainly acknowledge that there's a lot more than just the financial agreement to conclude before transfer can take place, and there's still outstanding works that would need to take place whenever that transfer takes place itself. So I take that point. I mean, obviously, if we knew we were definitely going to make the 1st of October, then I'm sure lots of other things would have had to happen very quickly. But a month or so ago, I'm probably pretty certain that it would have been a struggle to have achieved all those things in the time that we had available.
Sorry, Lisa. Please do.
I just wondered through you, Chair, if the council has made any plans for if this actually doesn't work out as a result of this, because there's going to be a lot of cost to the council if this route can't take place. So I wonder if that has been, if there's been any sort of risk assessment of that and the costs.
I think I think the simple answer to that is that if the process that we're currently working on doesn't conclude for whatever reason, whether it's the issue that we're talking about here around finances or any other matter, then the museum would stay with the council, and there would need to be obviously the lump sum is already being used to support the museum, but there would need to be a decision about how that was going to work going forward, because that's not a normal way to fund a service. It's only the lump sum is only devised to be the support mechanism for the external trust. So, but effectively, the museum would stay with the council with all the costs, unless the council were to make a different decision about what it wanted to do in the future. But there's no such decision has been considered, because this is the only avenue that is currently being pursued.
It is customary for us to note matters that are brought to the attention of this formal committee. I am minded that in these circumstances, we might wish to make a resolution. And I propose that it is the collective view of this management committee that the proposed setting of the revenue budget against the agreed financial settlement is an abrogation of the original agreement, and we reject it. Would that have the support of the management committee? Unanimously? That we have 2 votes only, and that is your own, Lisa's, and that of yours, Lawrence.
Yeah, I vote for it as well.
Although I think the minutes could report that there was unanimous support for that resolution. And I think...
Can I add?
Yes, please do.
can I add that a meeting with the chief executive be arranged without haste, or with haste rather, so this can be resolved?
Yes, I have I did write to the chief executive about 3 weeks ago, making clear the matters I introduced this item with. He did courteously reply within a couple of days saying that he needed to be better informed, bearing in mind he had only been in post a short time. I've heard nothing since.
So can I just check, Councillor Northover and Councillor Williams, you're in agreement with that resolution? Yeah, lovely, thank you. And of course, Chair will minute the whole
Yeah,
committee
I will give
comments
you
on
the,
that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let us move back now to item 5, which is the museum update report. And I look to you, Sarah, for that.
Sure, thank you. So I wasn't obviously going to go through it, just highlight a couple of things. Just that we've had a good 6 months, a slow start to the financial year, but then really good from sort of July, August, September. So I think income is up about 5% or maybe 4% on last year. Expenditure also up as well, but we're in budget. And probably this is a result of good weather through the summer holidays, the May Morris exhibition, which was extremely popular, and also the Ruth Borchard Self-Portrait Prize, which certainly brought in a kind of really good new audience. I didn't bring it with me, but our accreditation has been renewed with the Arts Council. So it's the first time we've been re-accredited in 10 years. So just because of COVID and everything's come through, but that all went through with only a few comments really about in 5 years' time when they come back to re-accredit us. They just want to see an update on, where we are with governance and so on. Who knows? The building, I just wanted to report, it's strange now, but in the spring we were quite concerned about a couple of fires caused by antisocial behaviour on the cliff. Fortunately, touch wood, they didn't continue through the summer, but there were a couple of bushfires on the cliff path, which really shows just how vulnerable the Russell Cotes is. So I just wanted to flag that up to the committee. Now, of course, we've got rain damage. Obviously, we've got the Mend 4 project coming through, which we'll discuss later, but we have got a lot of water ingress coming in through the tanking, through the cliff top and on the kind of western facade into the picture stores. So this is a real major concern, not easily sorted. So this is an area yes, an area that, we're just having these huge downpours, the quantity of water coming through is so significant. So I think it was that Saturday or Sunday a couple of weeks ago where water came through in the roof, into the study, into all the picture stores, blew some of the fuses, and we then ended up with call outs at night. So real area of concern there. And I'll just give you a slight update about security, but I think we're going to do that after the meeting if people are happy to stay on for a little bit longer. The pavilion, just quickly, we got some funding very kindly from the Bournemouth Civic Society to recreate one of the children's pavilions in the garden. Unfortunately, the length of time it's taken to get this project underway means that the costs have gone up. So I'm just still seeking some extra funds to enable that to happen. Got an application in at the moment, so I'm just hoping that will come through. New exhibition up opened on Saturday, Artists as Witness, a fabulous exhibition, and I've given you all a copy of the catalogue, which is available in the shop and in all good bookshops and online and so on. And then just quickly, the cafe's done very well this summer, probably with a good summer weather, very significantly increase in income, cost too as well. Shop's done well with the May Morris show. And then Arts Council, just to say that we've got caught up in the Arts Council England Grantium portal day back, where their kind of application portal sort of collapsed, I think through old age. And we had some good applications to go through, but we just couldn't do it because of the portal. So that's been a shame, because we would have hopefully done a kind of community project based around Artists as Witness with some of our Ukrainian refugee colleagues and so on. And then finally, PR marketing, the Artists Witness, we actually have employed a freelance PR consultant to support us on this, but we've really struggled to get any kind of coverage with this exhibition, which is a fantastic exhibition, nationally, regionally, even whether for whatever reason. So just interesting. We've tried, but so far not with any great success. But that was all I was going to say.
Thank you very much, Sarah. The exhibition which Sarah has referred to is truly special, and I do commend it to all of you, and indeed those you may know. It draws upon material that is much of which is in private collections, so that we are seeing for the first time some really outstanding representations by artists of what they observed in periods of hostility. There's some absolutely terrific work, and Jill Clark, who curated this, has done a superb job, as is witnessed in the catalogue which Sarah is distributing. It's a very, very commendable piece of work that deserves, national attention, and I think we might work on that, particularly as we move towards that solemn but commemorative period in November, where much of what you see in that exhibition is redolent of the issues which the 11th of November raises in the public mind. So jolly good is what I say. What is also equally interesting, and I think it's been tabled, is the programme of events at the Russell Cotes. And it's really a very important document, this, for those naysayers who say, well, the one or two people that go along and look at a few pictures. The art of wine tasting, the Russell Cotes Remembers, themed tours from darkness to light, upstairs, downstairs, some really great stuff here. And having attended a screening of a film which was within the Purbeck Film Festival, but actually screened within the Russell Cotes last week, showing the role of women artists in wartime. A really a very, very fine evening that, does much to add that little bit to the cultural experience that can be had within the boroughs. So I think this is a celebratory moment, albeit maybe the last in my chairmanship. But I think it is emblematic of what this place can do and does do to the cultural environment of this town. Lawrence.
Can I just go to one of the items under programming? The exhibition Waves of Change. We've agreed that next October. I actually met at a civic do yesterday one of the organisers who would appreciate an actual date in October rather than just October. Okay. If that can please be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted, thank you.
Are there any other matters people like to raise about the report that Sarah has given us?
Very good report.
Very good as usual. And now we come, our lips moistened by loans and disposals. Sarah.
Yeah, everyone's favourite item. So Acquisitions, I think it's, the report speaks for itself. Acquisitions, there. Some small items related largely to Henry Irving. That's that. The loans, yep, just a few loans out at the moment. And interestingly, we've got some loans out to Madrid next year. And then it comes to the disposals. So these disposals are largely relate to works that were collected over a long period of time, but specifically really for this what was called picture borrowing scheme or the art in the home scheme. So they were never borrowed, they were never bought for exhibition in the museum, but they were bought so that people could borrow them for, I think it was, you know, 2 shillings or whatever, to have them on display in their homes for a year. And obviously we've held on to them. They're taking a lot of space. They're many of them are very poor quality, and so we want to take this opportunity to dispose of them. Duncan Walker has done his usual excellent job in kind of doing as much research into them as possible. So we've obviously looked through these, and it's difficult to tell from these pictures, and have decided these have very little merit. They're not things we would ever display, often not related to local place or anything like that. So yeah, I would like you to agree to their disposal. We would, as ever, initially offer them to any public collection that would be interested in having them. And if no one wants them, or if they're not wanted, then they would be put up for auction or whatever, and then ultimately disposed of if they really are of no interest. But it would help in removing some of these paintings which have been stacked up for 20, 30 years in the stores or in the attic, to clear space for other.
Lawrence.
Just a thought, but if you get to a point where you can't get rid of any of these pictures, have you thought of perhaps donating them to a care home or some such public building, rather than just throw them in a skip?
Yep. No, that's good. Good suggestion. We would, you know, that is absolutely the last resort. Doesn't very often happen. But yeah, that's yep. Anyone, you know, for them to be in the public domain is the main the priority. So yeah, we can consider that. Thank you. I'm not sure they'd want them, but we could.
Yeah, no.
Just another thought. If, once you've gone through the whole procedure, could we sell them in the cafe
Oh, what a good idea.
for, you know,
It's a great idea.
well,
Again, I'm not sure, but we could do. Yes, we could. Absolutely.
Well, you
Yeah,
do sort of blind
yes, I thought-
bidding.
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
just to
Yep. No, thank you.
Lisa.
Oh, Lisa, can you put your microphone?
Sorry, I recognise the names of a couple of people there, and perhaps just offer them back to them if not as well.
Yeah. The only one I pick a plethora of things from Crete for reasons best known, but the one of it's an oil painting of Queen's Park,
Yeah.
which is 1937. I mean, I've not seen the original, but I would have thought there is a place for that within the authority. It may be at Queen's Park itself. But I think we ought to, where you've got clear local, you know, resonance, we should offer it locally anyway. Yeah, and there's one at Camford towards Wimborne.
I think these pictures are possibly a bit kind to them. So I think when you actually see them, because some of them are quite well-known artists, I mean, you know, sort of, but actually just they are in very, very poor condition. So yeah. I think that's probably part of the reason as well.
Absolutely, you know, confidence with Duncan in his selections, but I think you've heard some, you know, thoughts on this.
Thank you.
Good. I think that allows us now to move to the report on repair and renewal. This is the Arts Council England MEND 4, and both Sarah and I had a Zoom meeting with representatives of Arts Council England about this project, which is, I mean, it's not Well, it depends how one assesses 2 million quid. It sounds a great deal of money, but it will not go far, but it will provide essential restitution of some of the most exposed parts of the building. Sarah, perhaps you'd like to just update us as to where we are with this?
Thank you. Yes, so we've appointed the new lead designers. That's Purcell, which are a well-known, very well-known large company, and they've been cracking on, as it were. There have been an awful lot of hurdles in terms of covenants and legal documentation between BCP Council and the Arts Council. So finally, that has all been signed off. It's taken a long time. So that's done. So I understand that I literally am awaiting the first payment of the grant for about £500,000, which should be coming through hopefully kind of any day. So Purcell, so the planning application still with the planners. The conservation officers are, I think, overwhelmed. So there's still delays on getting the planning application through, listed building consent, I should say. I don't think there are any major concerns, but they're obviously going through very cautiously. One of the things that we're wanting to do, as are many historic houses, is increase the guttering size because of the problems with the excessive amount, the rainfall is so much more extreme. So that's just under discussion. So they're very small kind of items where we're just kind of talking to them still about exactly what they will allow and won't allow. But the first major work will be quite usefully will be CCTV, new CCTV, and that is literally out for tender, I think, literally any day. And we're hoping that that work will be done probably in January when the museum is closed to the public anyway. So it gives us contractors much easier kind of run at it. So that's going out for tender at the moment. Some of the electrical work, replacement of the distribution board, and then we will hope that the major work on the facade will happen next spring, summer. So that will mean potentially that the whole of the front facade will be under scaffolding for 6-8 months of the year while that work is kind of being done. But that is the major work being done, and then the other things around the drainage and so on will kind of work around it. So that's where we are at the moment. I think that that is so, you know, it's really about trying to keep on moving forward, and just that any delay, everything just gets delayed and delayed, and then the costs go up and so on. So we're just trying to make sure that we're just going to keep it completely on track, but they seem to be working well with us. So that's kind of where that is.
Alan.
I believe that the architects were appointed by the council after tender. And I know that you've been working them since August. Has it been a happy cooperation? Are you happy with their selection?
Yes, I mean they're very experienced. They're based in Bristol, so we don't see a lot of them's done kind of remotely. But yes, I mean they're very they're very professional and very competent. And it is, but with all these things, it's it's developing that relationship successfully and understanding the slightly kind of tripartite arrangement with building services, the museum, and these just trying to get that to work. So I think we're trying to work very hard to keep in close contact to make sure that is working optimally.
I can report, Alan, that I was party to the meeting I mentioned earlier, which had a representative, Purcell, and I was really quite impressed with her and her grasp of our needs. What was a rather interesting diversion. One of the problems we have about sort of water ingress is the capacity of the building to disperse the water that falls, because actually the gutters are really rather narrow. And one of the rather obvious proposals is you make the guttering slightly wider. This seemed very sensible, but that is now challenging listed building consent, because it would change that detailing of the building. So you get this sort of tension between a sensible proposal and then a conservation requirement. But I was very confident that the the lady who is the lead project person on this is very much up to handling it. So, and Purcell's, you may be aware, and I'm grateful to Fiona because she told me they are the architects who did the restoration of the Big Ben, the tower, and are nominated for the Sterling Prize. They did, which they didn't get, but it was a very unusual nomination, you know, for a conservation project rather than a new build. But they're certainly up there. Are there any other questions relating to item 7? In which case, I believe we have concluded our business this afternoon. And the date of the next meeting is proposed as the 19th of January at 2 p.m. I am now at liberty to declare the meeting closed.